What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So let's get started. We got a pretty big thing coming later on today. I'm going to talk about the NFL report cards came out. And every team was graded on all different things like team culture and the nutrition, and the way the families are treated, and locker room things like that. So I'm gonna go over each team. But first, let's get to a few things that happened for agency. The Denver Broncos officially let go of Russell Wilson. It'll be official on the start of a new league year, which is the first day of free agency on March 13th. He'll be let go. Broncos will take on an $85 million debt cap. That is by far the largest debt cap a team has ever taken on ever in NFL history. But debt cap, that's the amount of guaranteed money that hasn't been paid yet to a player. That's how much guaranteed money Russell Wilson is still owed. But he's not going to be on the team, so they're still going to pay that to him. So I think they're going to retain like his $35 million salary, basically. So, yeah, not great. It was a really ugly run. Obviously, he had a great tenure in Seattle. Last years have been not very memorable. It's not been very good. The little better this year, his first year was an absolute disaster. This year was a little better. Threw 26 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, but his arm is gone. To me, the things that made Russell Wilson are gone. He doesn't have anymore and are gone. That just, outstanding deep ball is gone. His arm isn't the same anymore. He's still a pretty decently accurate passer, but he can't, his ability to extend plays with his legs, he can still do to an extent, but not nearly as well as he once did. And he's one of those captain check down guys, as I like to call him. I know he might take like a veteran minimum deal, go somewhere else, but he might not have a choice. He wants to be a starter. As for why I didn't think it worked out, they gave up way too much. Gave up like 2 first-round picks, 2 seconds, like a couple mid-round picks, gave up 3 players. Drew Lock obviously isn't a very good quarterback. A second-round pick by Denver who didn't work out. He's still back up in Seattle. And Noah Font isn't great. A first-round pick tight end who didn't work out. But Shelby Harris is a good defensive lineman who they give up. And so many picks. They gave Russell Wilson $240+ million. That was just really, really stupid. You got a guy who's, coming off a year where, he missed a few games of injuries. Claire was playing through that thumb injury last year in Seattle. Didn't have his best season after a hot start that year. And to give up all those draft picks for him, pay him all that money, that was just an absolute disaster. And I don't know how George Payton has survived this, giving up all they give up for Russell Wilson, bringing in Nathaniel Hackett, having all that backfire in his face. Then, paying all the money for Sean Payton, which, I really don't think he's been worth the money. I know it's only been 1 year. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I mean, you all know my stance on Sean Payton. The first episode of the Fire Squad has been posted. I had a very fiery rant about him in that episode. So you know my feelings about him saying stuff about Nathaniel Hackett, and just things he's done over the years, what he did last year, but he's not the worst coach ever by any means. I do think he's overrated, but he's an okay coach, I'd say. But $17 million a year for Sean Payton? Come on. Really? Let's be real. Ridiculous. Everything that the guy's done has gone up in flames and not worked. I'm not sure why he still has a job. The Broncos might literally be better off just being an abject disaster this year, going 4-13 or 5-12. And then firing Payton and probably firing Payton. And then George Payton and then firing Sean Payton. It might be George Patton, actually, is how it's pronounced, but get rid of both of them. But George Patton might be the worst GM in the entire NFL right now. He is not good at all. But Broncos, Russell Wilson was let go. He might not be in the league this year. Because I'm thinking about all the openings for starting quarterbacks in the NFL. The only spot I see that work is Minnesota. If they let go of Kirk Cousins, if Kirk Cousins doesn't come back, if he signs elsewhere, I can see that. I think he fits in that offense with Kevin O'Connell's offense. He's got some nice weapons of Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison. The offensive line isn't fantastic, at least on the interior. As a smaller quarterback, I don't love that. And that defense is absolutely pathetic. They're aren't a ton of cap space. I know they're gonna I know with Kirk Cousins' contract void and Hunter's contract void, they'll get a little more. And the salary cap increase helps them, but they don't have a ton. They have a lot of work to do. They really should just blow my team up. They got to pay Justin Jefferson possibly $30 million. If not, they might have to trade him. I heard he might get traded. So there's also a lot of moving parts there, but that's the only spot I'd see that would work. With the Raiders, he's got some nice pieces there, but he's got a very fragile ego. Russell Wilson and Marshawn. He never really got along with Marshawn Lynch. He never got along with Richard Sherman. Those two guys have been pretty clear. Marshall has gone on the record. Sherman, not really on the record, but you could tell in certain ways he's criticized Russell Wilson since he got the gig with Amazon, but they were never really that close when they were in Seattle. Obviously, his relationship with Pete Carroll deteriorated over time. He never really got along with Sean Payton. Seems like he's never been a great teammate. The whole thing last year, well, 2 seasons ago, with he had his own office, which caused a lot of drama and certain you saw him, certain defensive players, would go up to Russell Wilson and be very, unhappy with him and just, he's clearly not, the greatest teammate. Seems a little difficult to work with, if you ask me. And so like a guy who has a fragile ego with Antonio Pierce, that to me just is like those two I think are gonna butt heads. So I don't really think that works. For that reason, going down the list, just looking at teams that might need a quarterback, trying to go team by team, like you think, all right, New England, as a veteran to bring in for a rookie quarterback if Drake May or James Daniels isn't ready. I don't think he's going to work with Gerard Mayo. I think those two will butt heads. In Washington, I don't like him schematically, and Cliff Kingsbury's offense is Cliff. He loves his air raid offense, loves to throw. That's not Russell Wilson doesn't have the arm anymore. You think Atlanta? One, I don't like him in that offense schematically because Zach Robinson, again, he likes to take deep shots. Russell Wilson doesn't have a great deep ball arm anymore. And two, their plan is either to trade for Justin Fields or sign Kirk Cousins. I think it's about Atlanta giving up 2 first-round picks to trade up in the draft and sign Russell Wilson to be their starting quarterback. So I'm just looking around like, where is a spot where, there's an opening at the starting quarterback position where he fits? I just don't see it. I'm just going through all the teams in my head, like Tampa, maybe. But I think there's a 98% chance that Baker Mayfield will be re-signed probably in the next 3 days. Now that if Mike Evans wasn't back, I'd say Baker might leave, and that might be a spot for him. He's got, even then, all we really have is Chris Godwin and Rachaad White, the running back. And the line isn't great. The defense, the secondary needs some work. They don't really have the money to improve it. So, I'm not sure what they would do. That first round pick, they can go either offensive line or secondary. They'll have to pick one. But now that Mike Evans is coming back, if Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Rachaad White, all right, that ain't so bad. But also, Baker's coming back, so I really don't think that's an available spot. He either has to hope that the Vikings don't re-sign Kirk Cousins, and now that becomes an option, because if the Vikings don't re-sign Cousins, that probably he's going to Atlanta. So, all right, but if you're the Vikings, I'd probably rather trade a second-round pick for Justin Fields than give up no draft picks and sign Russell Wilson, to be honest. It depends on what direction they would take. If the Vikings say, you know what, time to just explode this, maybe look to trade Justin Jefferson, maybe get a first-round, try to get at least one first-round pick for him, which you probably could get. But you think guys like Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw, could be on the chopping block. Maybe you can see some Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal so you have a quarterback, because they really don't have what it takes to trade up. They would have to get into the top 3 of the draft. They would have to give up 3 first-round picks to do that. Maybe Justin Jefferson in the first, but that's a lot to move up in the draft. To a quarterback we don't know is going to work out. If they get the third pick from the Patriots, right, they can get Jane Daniels or Drake May, who I think they're both excellent. I think those are the top two quarterbacks in this draft. But, you know, you know, these drafting a quarterback is a crapshoot. Some guys are like CJ Stroud. The second that they step on the field, you're like, is there five quarterbacks better than them right now? It could be, Zach Wilson. A year and a half in, you're like, I know he hasn't been on the field that long, but this guy cannot play the game of football. Drafting a quarterback is a crapshoot. It's all about, what do you have around him? The offensive line in front of him. Sometimes, a guy's stats in college were inflated because he didn't play great competition or the guys he had around him. That's why a lot of these Alabama quarterbacks don't work out because they have so much talent around them. In the NFL, they don't have as much talent around them and they flounder. Look at Mac Jones. That's why also have CJ Stroud. A lot of these Ohio State guys don't work out because of how much talent they have around them. Seems like every USC guy doesn't work out. Carson Palmer was a good quarterback, when he was healthy. But, Sam Darnold was terrible. Matt Leinart was a complete bust. Matt Barkley wasn't as high we touted. He wasn't great. Mark Sanchez was a complete bust. Like, I can just keep going down the list. Like, that's why part of the reason I don't think Caleb Williams is not going to work out, aside from the fact that his character is one of the biggest red flags I've ever seen. So yeah, I've said Minnesota. That's really the only spot I see for him right now. Otherwise, he'll have to sign with like Pittsburgh, and be a guy to be like that veteran that Pittsburgh brings in to help with Kenny Pickett's development. Maybe he'll get a shot to compete with him. I always have to hope that Kenny Pickett struggles, which is possible. He's not very good. And then Tom says, they start off 2-4, 2-5. Kenny Pickett struggling, and then Tom says enough is enough. Russ get in there just tries it. Because they have some nice pieces there. Problem is that offensive line is absolutely terrible. I don't hate him in Arthur Smith's offense, to be honest, but that line, it might get better. I'm sure the plan should be to improve that offensive line. And Russell Wilson is probably better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's one of the 5 worst starting quarterbacks in the league. He's had 13 touchdowns in 2 years? Like, he's awful. He's not a starting quarterback in this league. Russ, who I don't think has much left, and it's nothing. I don't know what this guy has left. People think, he had a good year last year. Not really. He's checking it down every time. When we ever need to come up clutch, he did not by any means. He might be if he in the right system with the right piece around him, if he has a good support system around him, he could be a serviceable starter. Maybe you win 9 games and maybe you sneak into the playoffs, but that's I think the ceiling for him next year. But Russell Wilson's been let go. Carolina Papers tagged Brian Burns. Turns out tagged for defensive end of $24 million. I have a feeling he's going to get traded from Carolina. I'm starting over. It's a couple of guys they should probably let go in for agency. But Dante Jackson isn't a very good cover corner. He'll probably get let go. And I talked about this yesterday. There'll be some guys that let go to create some cap space. Also, their new regime is in there. They promoted Dan Morgan to GM. They brought in Dave Canales as head coach. So, new regime is coming out. They're trying to help out their young quarterback in Bryce Young. They don't have a first-round pick. You could probably get a first-round pick for Brian Burns. If you do, or at least you have a first-rounder. Now you have, the 30... you also have the 33rd pick in the draft, the first pick in the second round. Now you would save. Now, right now, after tagging Burns, you only have lower than $9 million in cap space. By trading him, that money comes off the books. You'd have a lower $30 million in cap space, so that would help. You cut Dante Jackson, that's like another $5.5, $6 million, something like that. So all of a sudden, you have almost $40 million in cap space. You have a first round pick. I'm not sure where he'd go. They'll probably get a mid to late first rounder maybe for him. The 33rd pick, you have 40 or you may have 35, $4 million in cap space. All right. Now you can do something in his offseason, and then you can do something because Bryce Young otherwise. But Bryce Young's gonna be out of the league in 3 years. This is the way it's gonna work. Justin Madubuike was tagged by the Ravens. This one was surprising. He's a great player. He had a huge year. He emerged as one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Had 13 sacks this year, 13.5 sacks, something crazy like that. He had a phenomenal year, and he deserves to get paid. But the Ravens are one of the best drafting teams in the league. They're one of the 3 or 4 best drafting teams in the league. That's why a lot of them they don't pay up for these big time free because they know we can draft the next Justin Matabuke in like the 3rd round this year because of how good they are, their scouting department and just they are at drafting. But they tagged him. I think the Ravens they have a lot of frames on that side of the ball. Justin Matabuke, Geno Stone, Patrick Queen, a lot of big time guys who were major parts of their team of that top ranked defense this past year off ranked. I guess, they're trying to bring back as many as they can, I guess. So at least they can either try and work out a long term with Matabuke. I guess if not, they could trade him and they may get a 1st round pick for him. And then you have Antoine Winfield was also tagged, the safety by the Bucs. He's a great player. He's one of the best safeties in the league. Had a great year. His father was a solid defensive back in the league for a while, and he's followed in those footsteps. He's really good. Obviously, a top 5 safety in the league. Former 2nd round pick a few years back, 4 years ago. He's been really good since second he stepped on the field. He's very good. He was tagged, but tagged is $17.1 million. He's making good money. And then the Texans re-signed Dalton Schultz, 3 years, $36 million, $23.5 million guaranteed. He had a really good year for Houston last year. He's a solid tight end. Then he said he wanted to re-sign, and they gave it done. 3 years, $36 million for Dalton Schultz. So another weapon that we coming back for CJ Stroud. And then the Jets got Ciju Uzama that saves him $5 million in cap space. It's the right move. He's the 3rd tight end of a team. He's definitely overpaid for a 3rd string tight end. He's not been very good since Jets got him. He was pretty good in Cincinnati, but not been the same for Jets. And I just got a notification that the Jacksonville Jaguars have tagged Josh Allen, the defensive end. He had a huge year this year. Had like 16.5 or 17.5 sacks. I think was 2nd most in the league. He was a top 10 pick a bunch of years ago. It was rookie year. He burst onto the scene. He was kind of quiet for a year or two, but last year had a really good year, and this year complete breakout year. He has emerged as one of the premier pass rushers in football. They tagged him, and I expect them to work out a long-term deal because the defense wasn't great with him. Without him, they might be one of the worst in the league. Just for NFL free agency, the New Jersey Devils fired Lindy Ruff, their head coach. Travis Green's been in the interim. I was almost positive Ruff was gone at the end of the year. They have underperformed massively this year, but I know they've had injuries. Jack Hughes been in and out of the lineup. Dougie Hamilton, your top D man, has missed a lot of time. That's what's caused. It's been part of the reason they've struggled on the power play. They've had injuries to their goaltending, but this team is underperforming. Last they had a great year. They're one of the best teams in the league. You come back, they have 2 games to 0. Against a really good veteran Rangers team, win the 1st round. You win a playoffs here, which going into the year looked completely out of the question. Now, you made the move in the offseason. You made some moves in the offseason to improve your team. You look primed to be going on a deep playoff run this year. And right now, they're like 7 points out of the last playoff spot. Yes, they had injuries, but my God, they're underperforming. You go out there. You're playing Los Angeles Kings. It's a team that's barely hanging on in the Western Conference playoffs. Has had shaking goaltending all year like you have, and you just get smacked. Then you play a lifeless Anaheim team, and you lose that game. You've lost 5 of 6 all of a sudden. Now you went from all right, we're struggling, but we're still in the race to we're fading in the race. Period. Something had to give. Ruff, look, he's had a nice career. He was in Buffalo for a long time, a bunch of years ago. Had a nice tenure there. But ever since then, he was in Dallas for a few years. Wasn't great. He was the assistant coach of the Rangers for 3 years. Was like the defensive coordinator basically for the Rangers for 3 before taking the Devils job 4 years ago. Really didn't do a great job. And he really has done a great job in New Jersey. And I didn't love the hire when they hired him. I thought, all right, you got a young team in a rebuild, and you go and get, a much older has-been coach who hasn't been a quality coach in the NHL in like 7 or 8 years, at least. Didn't think it made sense. The first 2 years, they weren't very good. You had the one good year last year. He was coach of the year finalist. This year, just, yes, there's been injuries, but still, like the power play should not be that bad. The goaltending should not be this bad. Like, goaltending that kind of got, Vanacek, I know, has battled some injuries. But, Akira Schmidt, played very well last year, was great in the playoffs, at least in that series against the Rangers. He was kind of masked by the fact that Rangers were so bad offensively in the first round, but still, he made the saves when he had to. And, obviously, Nico Dawes as your first string goalie is not ideal. He's fine as a depth goalie, maybe a backup, but, isn't ideal. But he wasn't the whole problem, but they need to change, so he's gone. Not sure how much it's going to do. Travis Green, he started, in WHL, that he was a minor league coach. He was in Vancouver for about 5 years. Wasn't great. 133, 147, and 34 in about 5 or so seasons. He was fired midway through his 5th year. So he overall wasn't great, but he's got some head coaching experience. The next best candidate besides Lindy Ruff to coach the team. Lindy Ruff, last approximately just about 4 seasons. He went 128, 125, and 28 in his tenure. And the Toronto Raptors going to basketball. They extend Kelly Olynyk 2 years, $26.2 million. That would have been the guy I would have thought would have gotten bought out, but decided to keep him around. And the Miami Heat has signed Patty Mills. He's cleared waivers. They're going to sign him. Now, he's not the same player anymore. He used to be a really good, solid number 2 point guard when he was in San Antonio. He was kind of bounced around since then. He was in Brooklyn for a bit. But he'll be joining the Miami Heat. And by the way, Donovan Mitchell's going to miss his next 3 games. He missed the game against the Knicks. He's going to miss the next 3. He got some sort of injection. He's battling injuries, so hopefully they can get him back soon. And then in baseball, Justin Verlander, Astros stars, going to stop here on the injury list because of the shoulder injury. By the way, Mets fans pay attention to the amount of innings he pitches, because if he pitches at least 140 innings this year, the Mets will have to pay 17.5 of his $35 million vesting option in 2025. So just pay attention to that. And also, Lucas Giolito, who signed a 2-year, $37 million deal with the Red Sox this offseason. He got hurt in spring training. He's a partially torn UCL as well as a flexor strain. He might miss the entire year. Just saying, because his whole thing is he's not an ace, but he'll go out there, pitch every 5th day, give you 30, 32 starts, give you 150, 160 innings a year, and now he's already hurt. If it was a fully torn ACL, he'd have to have Tommy John, would definitely miss the whole year, or miss part of next year as well, probably. And partially torn, he could come back in a few months. Also go to a flexor strain, so it's a little more complicated. So if I had to guess, he'll miss a good chunk of the year. We won't see him probably till well into the summertime. Maybe they get him back in July or something, but he might miss the whole year. And a Red Sox rotation, it's already very thin and isn't great. The race is Ryan Giolito, maybe Brian Bello. I don't know. I know they're talking with Drew Montgomery. So but I think he wants 160 from them, and the Red Sox are only going to give him 130, so they're having trouble coming to terms on a deal. Not sure if this will ramp things up now, but they're in a tough spot with the rotation with Giolito out possibly the entire season. All right, so let's get to the NFL report cards. I'm gonna go everyone was ranked 1 through 32, and then each category also they were ranked. So these are the categories: treatment of families, food and cafeteria, nutritionist and dietitian, locker room, training staff. So the training room itself and then the staff. The room is just the room itself, and the training staff is obviously the people that work for the team and then are the trainers. The weight room is strength coaches, team travel, the head coach, and ownership. So I'm going to do 1 through 10 today. Going to do it similar to how I did the NFL offseason preview and how I did in 3 parts. This will also be a 3-parter. So today is Tuesday, and plan is to do a show Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We got some things going on during the week, but I'm hoping to still do a show Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Those things might be on StreamYard, because I'm not going to share my screen for anything. It would just be showing you guys what I'm going to say anyway. Not really a point. It also, the website I use would look kind of small, so I know my offseason preview, the board I showed you where I was doing stuff with the salary cap, looked kind of small. It was readable but not fantastic. This would be even worse, so really no point. So let's jump right in. Number 1 is the Miami Dolphins. So they were ranked first. So this is what they were ranked. third in treatment of families, first in food and cafeteria. They were second in nutrition. Locker room was ranked third. Training room was ranked first. The training staff was ranked first. The weight room was ranked first. Strength coach was ranked second. Team travel was ranked first. Head coach was ranked eighth. The ownership was ranked first. What's interesting is Stephen Ross is not a great owner. He's also been able to do some shady stuff. The whole thing with the tampering, trying to get Flores to set up a meeting with Tom Brady on his boat. That whole thing, he was accused of, with the Rooney Rule stuff. He's been accused of different things in the past. He was ranked first, so for whatever reason, remember, they polled the players. This poll is all the players. Oh, it's over 1,700 players. It's about 77% of the entire league. It's it's a way for the NFL because the NHL started doing it. NFL liked it, so now they asked the NFL, "Hey, could we do this survey with our players for our league?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." It's a way to engage the fans, give you kind of a closer look at behind the scenes as we can get. It's the closest look we're going to get, unless ESPN does a documentary about them or something. But obviously things have to get really bad for it. Really interesting for things to get to that stage. And so for other players to know, kind of get some information on the other organizations to see what their peers think. So, this is interesting. The Dolphins ownership was ranked first. I did not think they would have the best owner. Because Ross, he has not done a good job with the owner. He's done some shady stuff. Yeah. But I'm not that surprised about the locker room. Mike McDaniel's a very funny guy, younger guy, easygoing. So I don't think he's a great head coach, but besides the point. He was ranked eighth again. I'm sure he's probably fun to play for if nothing else. So not that surprised about that. Number 2 is the Minnesota Vikings. They were ranked second. They were first in treatment of families, seventh in food, first in nutrition. First, the locker room was ranked first. The training room was ranked second. The training staff was ranked ninth. Weight room was eighth. Strength coaches were first. Team travel was second. Head coach was second, and ownership was second. Kevin McConnell seems very well liked. I think he's done a good job. He did a great job in his first year. Didn't have as much success this year, but losing Kirk Cousins really hurt. I don't know why I think it was very clear that the best option was, for a while was Josh Dobbs. I'm not sure why he went to Jaron Hall twice during the year. I'm not sure what they saw from him. When they trade for Dobbs, I don't know why Hall started over him. He looked awful in that small time before he was replaced by Dobbs. Then Dobbs goes out and his Lynn Sanders kind of came to an end. Then he went to Nick Mullins, who wasn't that great, but he started that game against Green Bay. It was a win or go home game for them. They needed to win to stay alive in the playoff picture. And if they lost, they'd be out. They'd be basically out. You got a Green Bay defense whose secondary wasn't great, was banged up. They benched Jerry Alexander for the game for the whole weird stuff he did for coming out for the coin toss or something. It wasn't supposed to. So Nick Mullins tried to just chuck it up, just Jefferson Hope. That strategy might have actually not kind of worked. And then went with Jaron Hall, and he looked just beyond pathetic about the second half. I was like, enough is enough. Let's put Nick Mullins back in there. But losing Kirk Cousins definitely hurt. Vikings were ranked second. Number 3 was the Green Bay Packers. They were ranked third in this poll. So they were ranked 8th in treatment of families, 19th in food and cafeteria, 25th in nutrition, 13th in locker room, 13th in training room, 12th in training staff, 12th in weight room, 13th in strength coach, 8th in team travel, 3rd in head coach, and 21st in ownership. Their ownership, it's a little tricky because they technically don't really have an owner. They're owned by a company. Fans can only buy stock where all the fans say, "Oh, I'm part owner of a team," because they can actually buy stock in the team. So the fans sort of, kind of own the team. That's why it's kind of tricky. That's like when the whole Aaron Rodgers stuff happened. If they had a legit owner, a Robert Kraft or a Jerry Jones kind of, or any a legit owner, that would have probably been resolved quickly. Because the owner is basically just a company. So like the football guys have, Mark Murphy and Brian Gucknews kind of have to handle all that themselves, along with obviously the other day-to-day operations of running a football team. So I got a little messier. It took as long as it did. But yeah, they have a couple of things here that aren't as high as the other teams in the top three. Like the nutritionist was ranked much lower. Ownership I kind of get why it's much lower. Like I said, it's just some random company in Wisconsin that owns them. There's now can't imagine how much of a connection everyone in the organization has to the owner of the franchise. So not terribly surprised by that one. Number 4 is the Philadelphia Eagles. So they were ranked 4th, despite them having a bit of a tumultuous year. So these were the ranks. They were 16th in treatment of family, 2nd in food, 13th in nutrition, 16th in locker room. Training room was 9th. Training staff was 4th. Weight room was 9th. Strength coach was 6th. Team travel was 19th. Head coach was 6th, and ownership was 7th. A couple of things stuck out. I thought that'd be a little lower than the Eagles. Their locker room, that whole second half of the year, looked like a disaster. And they were ranked kind of middle of the road. I thought they'd be a lot lower than that. Their head coach, Sirianni, to me, it seemed like he kind of lost the locker room. I think he was ranked 6 is interesting. I thought he would have been ranked lower. Everything else, I mean, there wasn't really that many injuries, so I'm not that surprised that their training camp was ranked that high. But I thought this poll came out, I was thinking their locker room might be like 28th or 29th, and their head coach might be like 25th or something. But the fact that their locker room was like middle of the road, and their head coach was 6th. I mean, look, they won 11 games, made the playoff, but they started off 8-0. They were 10-1, and they just collapsed. So, I thought that they'd be a little lower. If I had to guess, I would say if you graded the locker room in the first half of the year, it was probably one of the 5 or 7 best. It was probably one of the 5 or 7 worst the back half of the year. So, that's my guess. But number 5 was the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were ranked 5th in this poll. So in treatment of families, they were 24th. They were 14th in food, 15th in nutrition, 6th in locker room, 3rd in training room, 8th in training staff, 4th in weight room, 21st in strength coaches, 8th in team travel, 19th in head coach, and 3rd in ownership. So head coach is, of course, Doug Pearson. He was a little bit lower on this list. He was ranked 19th. I just think, look, this is another team that collapsed. They were 8-3. They were competing for the number 1 seed in the AFC. It looked like they were going to win the AFC South without much of an issue. And then they completely collapsed. They lose 5 of their final 6 games, and they drop out of the playoffs entirely. So, the ownership, Shad Khan's got 3rd. Look, overall, he hasn't been a great owner. Haven't had a lot of success. He seems like a nice guy. He's always been very patient, which is why I think, certain guys are attracted, to like when there's a head coach or a GM openings. And all right, even if the first couple of years things don't really go so well, I'll have a few years to, get things together. But he's a great guy. He's finally starting to do it the right way. I just think he's just he seems like a very nice guy. Although a couple of years ago they went to the last game of the year and were wearing clown masks, mocking his mustache, him and his stupid mustache. That's a hell of a mustache he's got. Maybe it's the mustache. I don't know. They're just like, I can't think it's got any lower than one of the best 3 owners for having one of the maybe the best mustache of all time. So yeah, but the Jaguars were ranked 5th in this poll. Who knows? Maybe they would have ranked them first, but then maybe once it's around, Tony Khan's around, they're like, oh, can't put them first. Like, Shad Khan like Tony Khan, not really. Tony Khan doesn't really on the team. His dad on the team, just sometimes maybe he goes to him for whatever he needs. I don't know. Maybe some advice on how to run his wrestling brand, which obviously whatever advice, if he's dad's giving any advice, hasn't really worked. 6th was the San Francisco 49ers. They were ranked 6th in this poll. They were 2nd in treatment of families, 3rd in food, 8th in nutrition, 7th in locker room, 24th in training room, 21st in training staff, 11th in weight room, 16th in strength coaches, They're 13th in team travel, 7th in head coach, and 10th in ownership. Training room and training staff, not that surprised. They seem to have injuries every single year. They have top guys getting injured, it seems like. I don't know how. So their training room being ranked only 24th, the ninth worst mark and 21st, which is where their training staff was ranked. Clearly they don't have a very good training staff. It's been this way for years. I think it's something they should look at because that's been one of their main hurdles. Obviously, their main hurdles have been, not having a great quarterback despite having everything else. Kyle Shanahan, though he's a great coach, obviously he's ranked seventh on this list. He can't hold a lead in the playoffs for his life. But, training staff clearly is an issue. It's been this way for years. Number 7 on this list was the Houston Texans. They were ranked 7th in this poll. So the Houston Texans, they were ranked 8th in treatment of families, 4th in food, 3rd in nutritionists, 10th in locker room, 7th in training room, 7th in training staff, 20th in weight room, 24th in strength coaches, 12th in team trial, 14th in head coach, and 16th in ownership. I thought the head coach would be a little higher. D'Amico Ryans, it's not easy for a first-time head coach, especially a defensive-minded guy who's, as young as D'Amico Ryans is, to come in. His first year at Team has been an abject disaster for several years. Everything they've been with the Watson stuff and everything. And just come in there and just completely turn the team around, on a dot, get them to the playoffs, wins 10 games, wins the division, wins a playoff game in convincing fashion. That is not easy to do. So, and also he played on the team, so he does the whole thing. And he was a linebacker for the Texans for a few years. So I thought maybe they'd have respect for him as an ex-player. Those are the only guys who really get it. I thought he'd be a little higher, but I'm sure in as time goes on, he will be a little bit higher on this list. Number 8 is the New York Giants. The New York Giants were ranked 8th on this list. They were 15th in treatment of families, 8th in food, 27th in nutrition, 17th in locker room, 12th in training room, 2nd in training staff, 18th in weight room, 18th in strength coaches, 3rd in team travel, 13th in head coaches, 14th in ownership. I could see part of thought the ownership would be a little higher because John Mara, the Mara family, is a pretty player-friendly. They've always been very player-friendly. But, 14th kind of makes sense. For things that were low, nutrition, I can't really speak as to anything for that. Look, going down the list, Dable. Last year, I don't have the number for the poll from last year, of course, in front of me. Probably would have been higher. I heard there was some toxicity in the locker room this year. So, which is kind of why they're kind of much more middle of the road. There's reports that certain guys didn't like Dable. Obviously, he didn't get along with Wink Martindale, which is why Wink Martindale basically go after yourself. I'm gone. Though they probably would have part after the year anyway. So, yeah, Giants were ranked 8th in this poll. Number 9 is the Las Vegas Raiders. They were ranked 9th in this poll. They were 12th in treatment of families, 5th in food, 5th in nutrition, 5th in locker room, 5th in training room, 13th in training staff, 3rd in weight room, 7th in strength coach, 18th in team travel, 32nd in head coach, and 12th in ownership. Look, they were dead last in head coach. That's all Josh McDaniels. The tension in the locker room was really, really bad when he was there. He just obviously doesn't know what he's doing. Awful. The fact that they had, how tough they had everyone wanted to be traded from that team, basically. That shows you a lot. It shows you everything you need to know about Antonio Pierce. The job that he did just completely turned that team. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, that was put into a deep hole. How much he turned around the culture shows you how much, because they still were ranked 9th with like having the worst coach in Josh McDaniels, both on and off the field. And number 10, last one for today, is the Chicago Bears. They were ranked 10th. They were 11th in treatment of families, 21st in food, 24th in nutrition, 4th in locker room, 6th in training staff, 6th in training room, 10th in training staff, 6th in weight room, 22nd in strength coaches. Team travel was 6th. Head coaches 25th, ownership 13th. Eberflus, it's hard to see guys respecting him at times, I feel like. Like, he's not done a good job. I don't think he's a head coach in this league. I don't think he'll have a job past this season. I just think, like when they were, not playing on that one first half on Thursday Night Football, and they did the halftime interview like on the sideline. He goes, "Oh yeah, I got some things up my sleeve." I'm like, "What do you up your sleeve? Another 3 points in the next half? What are you talking about?" I just don't think he's a guy who as a head coach and you gotta be the kind of guy when they walk in the room, people's ears perk up and you get ready what that's to say and you listen what they have to say. I just don't think Eberflus is that kind of guy. I just don't. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Plans to do a podcast tomorrow, but I got some things going on the next couple days, so should be doing stuff tomorrow. Hopefully Wednesday through Friday, most likely. But just so you might see me tomorrow, you might not. So not totally sure, but till next time, so long and have a great day.